One of my favorite things about making money is, of course, paying tax. Not really. You pay tax when you make money, you pay tax when you spend money, and of course you can't even fucking die without paying tax now. And today I want to talk about one of the most annoying taxes in the world when you buy a property, also known as stamp duty land tax. First of all, what exactly is it? Well, there is a majestic tax added to any purchase of land or a property in the UK. Today I want to focus on residential properties. You do pay stamp duty on commercial property, but there's a commercial rate. And if you're watching this video, this is going to work for you if you're buying a house to live in or indeed as an investment. Well, if you're purchasing your first house or a house to live in, anything up to 250,000 is zero rated, i.e. there is no stamp duty to pay. So if I bought £200,000 house, I'd need to pay zero in stamp duty tax. Then what happens is everything above £250,001 up until £925,000, it's 5% stamp duty. Now that's not 5% on the whole £925,000. Let's say you bought a house for that. It's the amount between £250,001 and £925. You're going to pay 5%, which I think that's a big bloody jump to go from zero to that amount pretty quickly. It gets so much worse though, because as soon as you go to £925,001 all the way up to 1.5 million, you are going to pay a staggering 10%. Your stamp duty doubles. Again, it works like your income tax. It's not of the whole amount, it's of that stage process. So everything between 0 and 250 is 0. Everything between £250,001 and 925,000 is 5%, and everything between £925,001 and £1.5 million is going to be 10%. You're going to want to stay behind, by the way, because I'm going to tell you how you can legally avoid these taxes if you do it in the right way. And the final one, I think you've got bigger problems in life than stamp duty tax, but if you purchase anything over 1.5 million and £1, 12%. Like 12%. Are you fucking mental as a stamp duty tax, which can't be leveraged, you can't get a mortgage, it has to be cash. 12% is phenomenal as a tax. But get this. It gets worse. If you are an investor, apply 3% to everything I said. And the only exception of that is anything below 40,000. So anything up to 39,999.99 pence, there's zero tax, no matter whatsoever. Whoever is buying it will always pay zero. But let's say it's £100,000, which is zero rated, not as an investor, you will pay 3%, so you will pay £3,000. But as an investor, you're not only going to pay that 12%, you're going to pay an additional 3% on top. And it gets worse if you are a foreign investor. So if you are not a resident of the UK, let's say you're from Singapore and you want to invest in the UK, you're going to pay all the normal tax, plus the 3%, plus an additional 2% as a foreign investor coming into the UK. So what does this mean in reality? Here's one I made earlier as we go all the way up. Sneak peek at what we're going through in a second. So let's go through these one by one. This is giving you an idea of it's your first house you're buying, a house you're moving into the next one, so it's your second or third house that you're selling one and move into the other, and as an investment property. And if you are a foreign investor outside of the UK, plus 2% to this figure. I've not added that one. So if you buy a £150,000 property, if you're a first-time buyer, you pay zero. If you are moving to your second, third, fifth, 20th property, it's zero. And if you are an investor, you are going to pay £4,500, a straight 3%. Now, 300,000, it's a bit weird, this one, because the first 250 grand is zero rated. There is no tax to pay. However, the next 50,000, you are going to pay that additional tax on, and up here, you're going to pay a load more. However, if it's your first purchase, there's another exemption, which means you are exempt at this level from paying any stamp duty. So you're still going to be zero rated on the stamp duty tax. For the moving, so your second, third one, it goes up to 2,500. So I wouldn't say that's crazy. It's not a terrible amount of money. But what if you wanted to buy a £300,000 investment property? 11,500. What? People really hate us investors, right? But they really don't know how much tax we need to pay in comparison to everyone else. What about a £500,000 purchase? Well, here's where it really starts going up. So even if you're a first-time buyer, you're going to start paying some money. It's $3,750. Again, considering you're a first-time buyer buying a £500,000 house, I think you're doing all right. So fair play, you need to pay a bit of tax. If you're moving, it's now $12,500, and you guessed it, so much higher if you're an investor, is $27,500. Now again, if you're struggling to work these out, I suggest you look at the current rates, and there are calculators out there. The one that's usually best is moneyhelper.org. I'll put a link in the comments for you guys so you can get on there. But it works like this. So if you think of this visually, you pay no tax on this, you pay a bit of tax on this, you pay a lot of tax on this. So then it's broken down into these sections as you're going through. So again, it's not a, right, we're in this tax bracket, we're paying all. But what about £1 million? Don't we all dream of that £1 million house? Well, let's see how it works out for each section. So this is where the government says, listen, you're rich either way, you're gonna pay some serious tax. So 41,250 as a first-time buyer, 41,250 as a secondary buyer, and as an investor, fuck you, we're gonna charge you more. So we're gonna jump all the way up to 71,250. This is absolutely crazy. Jamie, there must be ways to not pay this amount of tax. Yes, there is. Let's face it, stamp duty is not your friend, and I genuinely do not mind paying taxes, but I will pay the absolute max that I need to. Why on earth would you pay more tax than you need to? And my personal opinion is, where the fuck's it all going, right? So there are multiple ways of mitigating stamp duty, and this could be as an individual or as a company. There are a lot more tax exemptions as a business, so which really will only appeal to those people in the investment arm. One of those is property trading, and I'll give you an example of that right now. So property trading is where you purchase and sell a property. Now there are certain conditions around this, and I don't have time to break it down fully, but you're going to buy this in a company, so a limited company, and a trade is where you are purchasing the property and then selling the property within 12 months, spending no more than £10,000. So it has to be sold in less than or equal to 12 months, and you are only allowed to spend up to £10,000. If you are doing this in a limited company, subject to a couple of other things being ticked, there is zero stamp duty. £0 stamp duty to pay. There are property trader exemptions, and it is a property trading exemption so that people could trade on properties quickly without incurring costs when they're not actually getting the benefit of the asset. One of the most common ways of doing this, that's property trading. The next one of limiting stamp duty is multiple unit dwelling relief. Okay, MDR. Now I've written one up as an example. So this is quite common if you've got a really good tax accountant for a strategy. So what happens is, when you're buying an expensive property, you can group properties together to get some stamp duty relief. And here's an example. Now, it has to be, I think it's more than 4, but double check me on that. And it's when you buy them as a linked purchase. So say I was buying a portfolio off of somebody, I'm going to get MDR relief, multiple dwelling relief. So what it means is you get the total value of the portfolio, you divide it by the number of units, and then you apply your stamp duty. It is at a minimum of 1% of the property's value. So say, for example, it's 10 100,000 pound units, you would have to pay a minimum of £1,000 per unit. So here's a worked example with some real numbers. Let's say I'm buying a £750,000 house, and for £62,500. That adds up to £1 million, by the way. If I'm adding that up, I'm going to pay for each of the £62,500 houses, I'm going to end up paying £1,875 per property as an investor, or £7,500 in total. So 4 times 1,875. For the $750,000, this is the big boy one, I'm going to pay $47,500 in stamp duty land tax. So in total, I'm going to end up paying £55,000 in tax. No thank you. So there are ways to eliminate all of them, by the way, and I'm going to be blunt about it. I am not going to be breaking those down in depth on my YouTube channel. However, if you are watching this and you genuinely want to become an expert in property, it's not going to happen by watching people's YouTube. If you want to back yourself, invest in yourself, and actually get genuine training from somebody that does make millions of pounds in profit on a yearly basis, put education in the comments right now and we'll book in a one-to-one strategy session. So how does MDR impact your tax? Well, I could pay the $55,000, or what I could do is get the full value. Let's rub this out, but we've got 750, so £1 million in value with 5 units. Just remember that. So if we've got £1 million of units in total, we then divide that up by the 5 units, which is £200,000 per unit. We then apply the 3% stamp duty on that per property, which is going to be £6,000 per property, times that by 5, £30,000. So instead of paying over £50,000, which was north of 50, we've now saved well over £20,000 in your pocket, ready for the next investment. And again, this is just a very common, small example of stamp duty relief. There are several ways of mitigating stamp duty. So I hope that's helped give you an overview of how stamp duty works. It works very similar to your income tax in the fact that it's 0 for a while, then 20%, then 40%, then 45% as income tax. But here it works as 0, then you've got 5%, then you've got 10%, then you've got 12%, and it builds up, okay? Again, reminder that you need to apply 3% to all levels apart from less than 40K. If you're an investor, and you need to apply another 2%, so 5% in total, on top of all of those thresholds if you are a foreign investor, somebody that's not residing in the UK. Hopefully this has helped, okay, and sort of debunk some of the stamp duty myths out there. But whilst it's not an optional tax, as most taxes aren't optional, there are legal ways of mitigating it, as there is with income tax, corporation tax, capital gains tax, and inheritance tax. So if you want to learn more to be as strategic as possible and make 2024 your best year, put education in the comments below. I'll put a link, I'll pin it to the top, fill in your details, and we will have a one-to-one strategy session between you and one of my team to see if we can help you in 2024. If you did get value from this, you want to learn more about property, make sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell. If you want me to deep dive on anything, let me know in the comments. And if you got 2 seconds, just tap that like button, and I'll see you in the next video.